Once upon a time, beyond the farthest edge of any map, there was a forest where the trees whispered lullabies and the wind always smelled like lavender and lemon balm. This forest, cloaked in soft mists and dappled light, was called the Lantern Grove. It wasn't named for any lanterns hung by people, but for the natural glow of the blossoms that bloomed at dusk, tiny flowers that lit up like fireflies as soon as the sun kissed the horizon. The trees in Lantern Grove were old, so old they remembered when the stars were still deciding where to rest in the sky. They stretched high with curving boughs, their bark smooth and warm, humming with a quiet, ancient melody. Moss covered the ground in plush, silken carpets, and wherever a leaf fell, a new blossom might sprout, pale and shimmering as if made of stardust. Nestled deep in this peaceful grove was a cottage. It was small and round, like a teacup turned upside down, made from smooth river stones and roofed in moss and ivy. A circular window looked out from the front, and behind that window lived an old woman named Mirren. Mirren had silver hair that drifted like mist down her back, and her eyes were the softest shade of gray-blue like the clouds before a gentle rain. She had lived in Lantern Grove for so long that even the trees bowed slightly when she passed. She wasn't a witch, though some might have called her one. She wasn't a fairy, though she had danced with them beneath moonlit branches more times than she could count. Mirren was simply the keeper of dreams. Each night, as twilight softened the skies into deep mauves and violets, she would put on her velvet cloak and step outside with her basket of sleep dust. She never ran out, not because she made more, but because dreams, true dreams, renewed themselves as long as there were those who needed them. Her sleep dust wasn't glittery or flashy. It was pale as frost, and so light it floated like dandelion fluff. She would walk from tree to tree, whispering to the leaves, tapping the trunks, and shaking a tiny pinch of dust onto the roots. The trees would sigh, their blossoms glowing gently, and the dreams would begin to gather. You see, dreams in Lantern Grove didn't begin in people's heads. They began in the roots of the trees, in the slow, thoughtful language of wood and soil. The roots would hold the dreams like secrets, humming them quietly to themselves until a sleepy soul wandered close enough to hear. Sometimes animals curled up beneath the trees, snoring softly as they dreamed of flying or finding endless fields of berries. Other times, wanderers, those lost or weary, would stumble into the grove and rest beneath a glowing canopy, lulled into dreams that wrapped around them like blankets. Mirren would watch over them all. On a particularly cool evening in early spring, the lantern blossoms opened a little earlier than usual. Mirren noticed this as she stepped outside, basket in hand. She murmured, smiling to herself. A traveler must be near. She followed the glow until she saw a child. A girl no more than 10 years old, with tangled hair the color of tree bark and eyes like river pebbles. She was barefoot and clutching a tiny book to her chest. Mirren knelt beside her. Are you lost, little star? The girl looked up, her eyes round but not afraid. No, she whispered. I'm just tired. My dreams are all tangled, and I can't sleep anymore. Mirren nodded as if this made perfect sense. You've come to the right place, she said gently. The trees here know how to untangle even the naughtiest dreams. The girl's name was Nella, and she had wandered for a long time, through cities and fields, through libraries and memories, trying to find somewhere her mind could rest. She had read stories of far-off places and imagined herself in every one. But each time she closed her eyes, her thoughts galloped like wild horses. Mirren led Nella to a wide tree with roots shaped like a cradle. Lie here, she said, brushing the moss into a nest. Let the grove do the rest. Nella hesitated, then curled into the moss, placing her book beside her. The petals above her glowed a soft, golden pink, and the light shifted in waves like the ocean tide. Mirren sprinkled the smallest pinch of sleep dust over her, and the wind carried the rest. The girl sighed, and her breath slowed. That night, she dreamed of a garden made of clouds and books whose pages told stories only when touched. She wandered paths of moonstone and listened to trees that spoke in poetry. She dreamed of herself as she truly was, bold, curious, and full of quiet strength. And all around her, the grove listened. Night after night, others came. An old man with eyes like dusk who had forgotten how to laugh. A fox whose tail had been caught in a trap, still limping in spirit. A painter who had lost her colors. A baby bird who had never seen the sky. Each found rest beneath the lantern-lit boughs, and each left lighter, filled with dreams they hadn't known they needed. Years passed, and the grove never changed, though the seasons danced gently in and out of its branches. The flowers glowed in summer's warmth, shimmered in winter's hush, flickered in autumn's sigh, and bloomed with spring's joy. Mirren's hair grew longer, her steps slower, but her eyes always sparkled when she tossed the sleep dust. And one night, many, many years after Nella had found the grove, a girl returned, a woman now, with her own silver at her temples. She carried a book in one hand and a small child in the other. I told her this place was real, Nella said with a smile. Mirren only nodded. All dreams are real, in the right light. The child looked up at the glowing trees, her mouth open in wonder. Nella knelt beside her and whispered, "Close your eyes. Listen to the roots. Let the dreams find you." The lanterns glowed brighter, as if in welcome. And somewhere in the distance, a lullaby of leaves began again. Many dreamers wondered what became of Elwyn. Some said she became a cloud, drifting gently across the sky, raining dreams down on the world below. Others believed she had turned into a silver owl, watching over sleepers from a branch just out of sight. A few swore they heard her voice in waterfalls or saw her reflection in rippling puddles when no one else was around. But the valley didn't worry. It didn't need to know where she had gone. The valley had learned to dream on its own. New keepers rose like seeds from the soil. One was a boy named Fun who had once dreamed of wings so often that feathers began to sprout behind his ears. He spoke to birds in their own language and tended nests with his gentle hands. Another was a girl called Morel who painted with light and helped the stars remember how to shine. Together, these dream keepers wove stories into the land. They planted lullabies into the wind and tied strings of hope to the branches of sleeping trees. Even the moon would pause in its path to listen to the songs they played on instruments made from wind chimes and river shells. In time, the valley became a sanctuary not just for dreams, but for those in between waking and sleeping, those who didn't know how to rest, but came searching anyway. They wandered in with aching hearts and buzzing thoughts, and they left lighter, quieter. Some returned again and again, tracing the path back through dreams like a thread through a labyrinth. In a faraway village, on the edge of a dreaming child's mind, a rumor began to spread. A rumor of a forest that glowed at night, where flowers whispered secrets and rivers told bedtime stories. Children would stay up late, hoping to catch the scent of lavender and rain on the breeze, a sign the valley was near. And sometimes it was. Not in a way that could be found on foot or drawn on a map, but in the hush just before sleep. In the warmth of a quilt that smelled like memory. In the peace of knowing someone somewhere was watching the stars for you. One such child was named Nomi. She had never slept through the night, always waking with her thoughts tangled like thorns. But one evening, as her eyes fluttered closed, she felt a soft wind against her cheek. She heard bells made of light, and when she opened her eyes again, she was lying in a bed of moss beneath glowing branches. She didn't question it. She only smiled. A fox made of fog padded up beside her and curled at her feet. A tree leaned slightly to shade her. Above, blossoms opened like tiny lanterns, and the air was thick with the hum of a lullaby. Nomi slept soundly for the first time in her life. When she awoke, her bed was just a bed again. The room quiet, the dawn soft, but beside her pillow was a single petal. Silver and warm, like moonlight caught in silk. She placed it in a jar on her windowsill and never stopped believing. She returned often in her dreams. And when she grew older, she told stories of the valley to her children. And they told their children. And somewhere deep in the roots of the dreaming world, Elwyn's willow still stood tall, its branches glowing, waiting for the next soul to come looking for peace. And when they did, the valley would whisper, "Rest. You're here. You're home."